You are live. Welcome to the Shoy Show. It is July 28th, 2026. You got something to cry about? Cry about it. We're all gonna die. What does it matter? You watch the Shoy Show, you don't watch the Shoy Show, you go over there, you go over here. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter when goo 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 Gucci Gucci goo Gucci Gucci goo. When's the last time you tickled someone? That's my question for today. Question of the day. When's the last time you tickled someone? But you know what? We're going to start off with my city bike getting stolen. And if you're going to judge me, okay, just know one thing first, okay? Only God can judge me. Oh man, what a saying, right? How cliche is it? Like if somebody says only God can judge me, it depends how they say it, right? If they say it like they're in the hood or something, like only God could judge me, then you're just like, yo, who am I talking to, right? Like you gotta, you might have to go hide. But and then you got people that'll be like, only God could judge me on my. See, this is the problem with the show, right? I go off on tangents so much, and it's like we're supposed to talk about city bikes right now. It's like only God can judge me. Like if you got a tattoo, only God can judge me. I think, yeah, I'd question who that individual is as well. And then lastly, for the people that just say it, like I say that sometimes. I'm like, remember, the only person that can judge us is God, right? Just as a reminder when we're talking about God or whatever it is. But it just depends on how you say it, right? Because if someone just comes out of nowhere, only God can judge me, that person's probably either really young and they're trying to just throw out a cool statement because they think that's cool. I'm not sure. What are we talking about? Who cares? Who cares? All right, let's get into the show. So my city bike got stolen, which is a pain in the ass, but I'm going to tell you what happened, right? I'm usually careful with my city bike, and I've had a membership for 1 year now, so I'm in the club. First of all, let's start off with the stupid ass price of these damn memberships. It's $240 a year plus tax, which is like $280. $280 for one of these piece of shit bikes. These bikes suck. Half the time, I've done the statistics on this. I've done the math. Half the time I take out one of these bikes, something's messed up. One of the gears are messed up. My bell is messed up. Something's messed up. It's usually the gears. It's usually the pedals. Something's messed up. The reason why I like them is because of the convenience. I can park it anywhere, yada, yada, yada. I actually have my own bike, but I like using city bikes. Now, is it worth $280 a year? Absolutely not. It is not, which is bullshit, because there should be a program for New Yorkers. There are programs for people that have food assistance, and there are elderly programs as well, but there are no programs for everyday New Yorkers. I don't know why it's $25 a day for an everyday New Yorker. I don't know why it's $5 a day to unlock one of these bikes for a fucking New Yorker. Like, this doesn't make, that's just way too pricey. Mamdani, you want to do something in this city that's going to help us? We got to lower prices on this last mile tool, right? This last mile transportation, whether it be a scooter or a bicycle in this case, we already have the system in place. It can't be this much money to use a bicycle. And these bikes suck, by the way. So that's my first gripe, all right? Cost is a pain in the ass and the bikes suck. Now, let me tell you what happened to me the other day. Pain in the So I stop at this little shop every couple of days or so. It's a little fruit shop. So I parked my bike right there on the street. There's a truck right in front of it. You can't really see the bike unless you're behind the truck. And I know everybody at the shop, all the fruits and vegetables are out there on the street. And I walked in, and I didn't even walk in the shop. I was right there at the entrance. I was at the foot of the door. The door's wide open. There's no door that you have to open or close. So I'm standing there, And there was an older woman, and she starts up a conversation with me. She's like, "Oh, is this good or not?" Like she was asking me something about the peaches. So I start up a conversation with her, and then we just start talking about life, which was nice. Now, at this point, I have my back turned to the bike on the street, and I know all the workers there, but they're not watching my bike or anything. They're working, right? And I didn't want to be rude, so I just kept my eyes on her, as I think a good listener should. And I didn't want, I was thinking in my head, like, how many conversations does this woman have with people, right? She's an older woman. Like, I just wanted to make sure that I gave her my attention as best as I could. So I don't even turn to look if the bike is still there, right? As I should, if I'm responsible, because I felt something was wrong, but I just wanted to make sure that she felt like I was just giving her the time of day. And I thought that was more important than anything else in the world at that point. Shows you how crazy my life is, depending on how you look at it. Anyway, so then after like a minute or so, we're talking, and then I just decide to turn around. Like we finish our conversation, and I just decide to turn around, and my bike's gone. And I'm like, what the? And I'm just in total disbelief. So I go outside, and I'm like, and I'm already outside, right? It was literally like 10 feet away from me. So someone just stealthily jumped on the bike and rode it away. Because if I would have found the person, I would have tackled them. I have running sneakers on at all times. I would have tackled him, and probably beat his ass. Because that's not happening. That's just not happening, right? And I look, I go right there in the street. It's on a corner. I look all four ways across the intersection. I don't see anyone. Maybe they were hiding. Maybe they took off. That was ample enough time, like 2-3 minutes for them to get away. So my bike got stolen. So then I call City Bike, and I'm like, hey, my bike was just stolen. And they're like, well, did you fail to dock it? And I'm like, no, I didn't fail to dock it. I was like, it was like 10 feet away from me. And they're like, well, you got to be more responsible. Well, you're going to get a $100 charge. A $400 charge for the day. And then they had said something like, then there was going to be another $250 charge for the bike, something like that. Anyway, this is all in process. I still have to call City Bike back. First of all, this bike is not worth $600. It probably is to them. I don't know what their cost of goods sold is. However, this bike is a piece of shit, and the bike was stolen. So, City Bike, don't charge me, because I was doing a good deed, I believe. All right. I was trying to talk to an elderly person. I was trying to give her the time of day. And you know what? Even if I do get charged this amount of money, it was still worth it. I wouldn't have done anything else differently, because I felt that we had a good conversation. And hopefully, I'm not sure if I made her day or not. I'm not saying I did, but I just wanted to make sure that I gave her the attention that she deserved. So that's my little sob story for today. Sorry I had to sit through it, but if you don't like it, what else can I say? All right, let's get on to something more juicy, because that's, I know you like the juice. Is the juice worth the squeeze? You like that saying? Is the juice worth the squeeze? All right, let's get into it. Amazon MGM just dropped Artificial, the Sam Altman movie that was reportedly nearly finished. Why would you do that? It wasn't an announcement, and then they withdrew. It wasn't rumored. It was finished. It was damn near finished. Andrew Garfield was playing Sam Altman. Luca Guadagnino was directing. The movie was centered around one of the most bizarre power struggles in modern tech, the OpenAI board firing Altman, the company basically revolting, and Altman returning days later. If you don't remember this story, this was pretty controversial. It was huge. It is one of the most corporate dramas of the AI era. And it was about what was going on in OpenAI at the time that led to the board ousting Sam Altman over fears that he wasn't managing the business, the product, the direction of the company in a responsible manner. Wow. That would have told us a story, but now they shelved it. And why did they do that? Because Amazon announced a massive OpenAI partnership worth $50 billion. And then all of a sudden, Amazon MGM drops a nearly finished movie about the CEO of OpenAI. Now, I'm not saying that we know exactly what happened behind closed doors, but don't we? Why would we not want to understand one of the most influential people in artificial intelligence, especially when OpenAI is meeting with our government every other day and is shaping the way people search, write code, work, learn? I'd like to see a little bit more about his life. He does give a lot of interviews. I'll give him that. But a movie depicting what was going on within the company that led to his firing and then his rehiring literally days later in the same week, and then 2 board members actually leaving the company. I want to know about that. Maybe you should do your research. Maybe I just want to watch a movie about it. Maybe I just want to report on it. Maybe. The movie was all but finished. Then suddenly, the company with a multi-billion-dollar relationship to the subject decides it should be someone else's problem. That tells you something, doesn't it? I mean, they finished the movie. They were doing the movie. They finished the movie. They announced a partnership, $50 billion, and then they dropped the movie. So clearly, their PR group said, hey, this isn't good for publicity. Let's nix it. It's that simple, right? Did OJ do the crime? Of course he did. He's dead now. We can say whatever we want about him. Don't sit here and say, maybe they didn't like the movie. Now you're just posturing. Maybe the relationship got too sensitive. You're just creating excuses over here. They were probably about to embarrass Sam Altman. And maybe that's why OpenAI partnered with Amazon. I mean, it's $50 billion. In all likelihood, that wasn't the case. But is this like, not quid pro quo, but it's like, hey, this for that. It's like, hey, I do something for you. I scratch your back a lot, right? $50 billion partnership. Why would you turn around and deface me? Doesn't make much sense, does it? They would want that relationship to be shed in a positive light. But OpenAI is not just some tech company. Sam Altman, he's not just another CEO. He's one of the most important people on the planet right now. A company with enormous power, enormous money, influence. And the question is simple to me. If there's nothing uncomfortable there, why drop it to begin with? What are you hiding? And why does Sam Altman care? Well, that's because movies are extremely important. They tell the story. If the movie was bad, let people see it and decide. However, it would ultimately change the narrative. And once you open up Pandora's box, it's extremely difficult to close it. So, in all likelihood, this was going to paint Sam Altman and OpenAI in a very negative light, and they decided to nix it. Do you see a problem with that? I don't know. Maybe we're just living in the Matrix. Maybe none of this matters. It matters to me because it tells me that, hey, there's some dirt back there that nobody wants to see. And we know it exists, but that's why we have to talk about it, because it raises awareness. And if you have nothing to hide, show the film. And if you do something, and if you do have something to hide, then the powers that be can make something like this happen. So no movie, it's not coming out. Maybe someone else picks it up. I mean, they literally spent millions of dollars on it, and they decided to nix it. That's how it goes. That's Hollywood. All right, next topic. All right, look, okay. I like Mamdani. I like the idea of taxing the rich. Technically, I am rich, right? Depends on what number, what threshold you use, but technically, I am rich. But I like the idea of taxing the rich. I like the pied-à-terre tax. You got a second home, it's worth more than $5 million, tax them. Do whatever the hell you want. Worth more than $10 million? Yes, people that have $10 million, that's a lot of fucking money. I aim at having that one day. And when I do, I'm totally fine with those taxes. You should be taxed. This country, this city, all of the mechanisms here, the structure allowed you to make a lot of money. Therefore, I think you should be taxed proportionately. However, should we hate these people? Enough. Seriously. For those of you that say Israel shouldn't hate Palestine, they shouldn't be fighting, Iran shouldn't be fighting the United States shouldn't be fighting Iran. For those of you that are like against war, I'd like to put this into context. Why are we against the rich? They have done nothing wrong except that they're rich. Oh, by the way, every single person out there wants to become them. They want to be rich. They want more resources. Do you want to be treated like shit if you actually move socioeconomic classes? I don't understand this narrative in society. And then some people will say, hey, by the way, you know how the rich look at you? They look at you like you're a cockroach. So the fuck what, man? Do I think that's right? No. I can only control my own domain. That has nothing to do with me. I do not hate the rich. Do I think they should pay their fair share of taxes? Duh. Makes sense. And for those that disagree, tough luck. I'm talking about for the rich. If the rich disagree, tough luck. Pay your damn taxes. I pay 38% every year. I pay my shit every fucking year. You can audit me. Actually, don't audit me. Please don't audit me. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody got to do their thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm not about to come out here and be like, yeah, I don't, everybody does their thing. You know what I'm saying? That's all I can say about my taxes or anyone else's, right? The super rich, they're going to say, I have a glorified accountant. Me, I'm just like, I do my thing. You know what I'm saying? But I still pay 38%. And I can prove that. Yeah, I do my thing. You know what I'm saying? Tax the rich. All right. So let's get into this because I don't have a problem with this tax. Of course, it's making headlines. The controversy is not the tax itself. It's how the city rolled it out. Mayor Zohran Mamdani, which I like. I want this city to be more affordable. I actually like his policies in general. But he announced that owners of certain high-value second homes should check their mail because notification letters were being sent out. At the same time, the city published a searchable database containing the names and addresses of property owners connected to the proposal. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why would you expose the super rich? Now you're creating the narrative. No? Now you're putting it out there. Now, by the way, this database is actually available to anyone. You can search these property records, but the publicization of it is the problem. Because now you're creating this Joker narrative, right? You guys remember Joker, Batman, which is like, yeah, let's kill the rich or whatever the hell. I mean, why is it us against them? Why is it us against the rich? All they did was become rich. I agree, we can change tax codes. But why should we be going after them? Like, why is it us versus them? I just don't understand that narrative. If you want to make sure, if you want to push as hard as you can so that we can make sure that they're paying their fair share of taxes, I totally agree. But to pit us versus them, I think is totally wrong. So let's separate two different issues. Notifying taxpayers is one thing. If someone may owe a new tax, of course, the city should let them know. That's exactly what the letters are for. The question is, if those letters are already being sent, why also publish a searchable database with names and home addresses? Why do that? Are you doxing people? I mean, seriously, why would the mayor do that? And it's not just the mayor, right? It's his administration, right? Just like the Trump administration, you can't just blame Trump. He has an entire cabinet, an entire team behind him. It's the entire government. Mamdani, Trump, they're just the quarterbacks. Property records have long been public in New York. That's nothing new. What's different is taking that information, organizing it around a specific tax proposal and putting a spotlight on it. That changes how easily people can find it, share it, and use it. And that to me is wrong. The city estimates the tax will ultimately affect a relatively small number of high-value second homes, yet the published database contains far more properties than the number expected to actually owe the tax. And city officials have said that appearing in the database doesn't necessarily mean a property will ultimately be taxed. So think about that for a second. If your property appears in the database, but you never end up paying the tax, why were you included in the first place? There's an estimated 31,000 homes that are subject to this new pied-à-terre tax. However, the database reportedly has over 960 records. The database reportedly has over 960,000 records. Why? Why would all those others be included? Why would all those others be included? I mean, again, I'm not even against Mamdani. I like the things that he's doing, and I like his approach. But this is out of line, because this just enforces the narrative of us versus the rich. The narrative should not be us versus the rich. The narrative should be, hey, rich, pay your shit because everybody else is. That's different. And this is dangerous. You think the fucking rich feel safe right now? I'm not defending the rich. I'm not just saying that this is some cohort that we should just say, yeah, they're the good guys. No, just make sure that they pay their fair share. Giving names and addresses, I don't know what that does. That's like some Purge antic. If you guys remember the movie Purge, right? It's like, yeah, let's all kill the rich. I don't remember exactly what this movie was about. You just kill people. But I mean, what are we trying to do here? Are we trying to create some intense environment in New York City? That's what you want? A lot of people in New York City have a lot of money. Most of us don't. But a lot of people do have a lot of money. Are you just saying that the rich are now wrong? Because that's what you interpret from this narrative. And the mayor, he's too smart for this. Way too smart for this. He's way too shrewd. I don't think this was the right move.
When I ran for mayor, I said I was going to tax the rich. But today, we're taxing the rich. I'm thrilled to announce we've secured a pied-à-terre tax, the first in New York's history. This is an annual fee on luxury properties worth more than $5 million, whose owners do not live full-time in the city. Like for this penthouse, which hedge fund CEO Ken Griffin bought for $238 million. This pied-à-terre tax is specifically designed for the richest of the rich, those who store their wealth in New York City real estate, but who don't actually live there. But even so, they're able to reap the huge financial rewards of owning property in, dare I say, the greatest city in the world. Most of the time, these units are sitting empty, since again, they don't.
All right. Personally, look, love you, Zohran. You're the man. Because I do believe that this is one of the better leaders that we have out there in the United States. I don't know about all of them. Probably one of the better ones in the world as well. I don't know about all the leaders in the world, but he comes off as honest, and I believe him most times. However, do I give a shit? Do I give a shit that the fucking apartment is empty? So how do you know that they're empty? What, are you tracking these people? I mean, come on. It's a tax on second homes worth more than $5 million. If you can't agree that there should be a higher tax on second homes worth more than $5 million, I don't know what else to say. I mean, like, that makes sense to me. Yes, the rich should be paying their fair share. So I don't disagree with this. And it's going to reportedly bring in $500 million annually, which we can use on other goods and services, other public goods and services. But again, my issue is the narrative here. What is this painting? Why is this painting the rich in a negative light? Are they doing anything wrong other than making money? And again, the paradox that I have, y'all, is this. You want to talk shit about the rich? You yourself want to be rich. Pin drop. What you saying now? You're walking in circles. Again, if your property appears in the database, but you never end up paying the tax, why were you included in the first place? 31,000 homes were subject to the tax. 960,000 homes ended up in the database. Names and addresses. Why? Why? That's a different question from whether the tax itself is a good idea. I think it's a great idea. Now, the video we just saw was Mamdani filming a tax day video outside billionaire Ken Griffin's Manhattan residence while promoting the tax. Now the city has released a much broader database tied to the same proposal, and that's become part of the conversation surrounding how the policy has been presented. Government transparency is important. We all want that. Public records are important. They're already available, and they should continue to be. But there's also a difference between information being publicly available and the government actively drawing attention to it. That's the problem that I have. 30 years ago, public records might have meant visiting a government office and searching through files. Today, one searchable database can spread across the internet in minutes. The information may be the same, but the reach is completely different. What's the point here? Are we trying to collect the money that the rich should be paying, that we all agree that the rich should be paying? Or are we trying to peg ourselves against one another? That's why this story is much more about one tax. It's about where we draw the line between transparency and privacy in the digital age. This information was already available. The fact that his administration chose to publicize it, I can't agree with. If the people affected have already been notified by mail, what additional purpose does publishing a searchable database serve? Adding insult to injury? Because now, information around a politically charged issue, this isn't just about maintaining public records. It's making a decision about how that information is presented and how widely it's likely to spread. Are we just all anti-rich here in New York City? Do we just want to extinguish the rich? The rich? Because if that's the case, then we need more policies like this and we need more approaches like this. And I don't agree with that because it doesn't make any sense to me. And by the way, if you got rid of all the rich, do you know what would happen in New York City? It would just be a matter of time before the rich that were displaced get replaced. I don't understand what exactly the maneuver is here. You want to make the city more affordable? I agree. You want to tax the rich and make sure that we collect those taxes? I agree. You want to say that rich people are wrong? I can't agree. You want to provide names and addresses of these people? I am just so far away from that. Does not make sense. Where's the safety and security for these people? Are we keeping them in mind? This isn't about defending the rich. It's about defending people in general. So whether you support the tax or oppose it, that's a conversation worth having. And whatever standard gets established here won't just apply to this proposal. It will help define how future governments handle public information about private citizens. We already don't have our privacy because of all the information that we reluctantly give to all of these applications on our phones, on our laptops. Something as private as where we live, that should not be publicized. Full stop. So, Mamdani, keep doing your thing, but this needs to be taken into account. All right, next topic. All right, I did some serious research on this. And by serious research, I mean, I told ChatGPT, listen, go on overdrive and do this research, because if you don't, I'm going to slap you in the face. Sometimes I wish I could slap the shit out of ChatGPT because it's annoying. All right? I would beat it to a pulp if I could. All right, let's get to it. Would cars be cheaper without tariffs? Now, I actually did some analysis on this. And I'm not kidding, because I didn't want, hey, yeah, cars would be cheaper without it. No, doesn't work like that. The answer to that question, would cars be cheaper without tariffs, is yes, almost certainly. The average new vehicle would likely cost thousands of dollars less, although the exact amount depends on where it's built and where its parts come from. Remember, think about all of the spokes, right? The car may be assembled here in the United States or in Mexico, but then we're getting parts from Korea and China and Japan, etc. But would a car cost less? Yes, it would. All right, do away with all the tariffs. It's not that easy. That's not really the debate here. The real debate is whether paying more for cars is worth protecting American manufacturing, because every economic policy creates winners and losers, and we need to balance those out. We need to recognize what those are. Let's start with the consumer. Americans buy roughly 16 million new vehicles every year. Some economists estimate today's tariff structure adds somewhere around $3,000 to $6,000 to the average new vehicle, depending on the model and how much of it is imported. So 16 million new vehicles every year. Let's call it $5,000 tax with tariffs. Now, think about this question. If your next car suddenly costs $5,000 less, what would you do with the money? Would you pay off debt, take a vacation, invest it? The money doesn't just disappear. It gets spent somewhere else in the economy. So we would essentially ingest that. We would be able to save that without that tax. Now let's look at the other side, which we have to juxtapose here. The United States has about 950,000 people working directly in automobile and auto parts manufacturing. Those are generally good paying jobs, often around $70,000 a year or more. And those jobs don't exist in isolation. One assembly plant supports suppliers. It supports trucking companies, local restaurants, construction, schools through local tax revenue. So when a major factory closes, the entire community feels it. We've seen this in many parts around the United States, including Michigan. So the argument for tariffs isn't really about making cars cheaper. It's about making sure those factories stay here instead of moving somewhere else. Now, here's something that often gets confused. You'll hear that the auto industry supports around 11 million American jobs. That's true, but that's the entire automotive economy. It includes dealerships, mechanics, banks financing car loans, insurance companies, repair shops. Those jobs would still exist even if more vehicles were imported. The number most directly connected to manufacturing is much closer to 950,000 workers. That's an important distinction, but we have to ask ourselves this question. Would eliminating tariffs wipe out every one of those manufacturing jobs? Probably not. Toyota builds vehicles in Kentucky. Honda builds vehicles in Ohio. BMW builds SUVs in South Carolina. So foreign automakers already manufacture millions of vehicles inside the United States because America is one of the world's largest car markets, and they're only incentivized to do so because they are trying to avoid those tariffs. However, the trade-off is they could make those cars significantly more cheaper in their home countries and import them. But again, they got to weigh that out depending on geopolitics and overall supply and demand economics. But let's get back to the premise here, because would a car be cheaper, right? And in my mind, we keep hearing about these Chinese EV companies. We're hearing about BMW, whoever it is outside of the United States that you would like to buy in the form of a make or model. In my mind, it's like, why do we have to pay this additional tax? Is it to save jobs? Because that's what you have to juxtapose here, right? It's just not that easy to remove the tariffs. They have been selective with this protective tariff because what the US government is saying is the trade-off is clearly in favor of the United States if we keep manufacturing here versus reducing the tariff or eliminating it altogether and having an influx of imported vehicles. So is this American companies versus foreign companies? Not that simple. It's also about where the production happens. And here's where the story gets interesting. If Americans are paying tens of billions of dollars more every year for vehicles because of tariffs, what exactly are we receiving in return, and who gets that money? Right? Where's the tariff money going? It's going to the United States. Then where does the money go? So it's like, all right, you're making me pay more for a car here, which essentially supports our economy, which I could technically agree with. But then where do those tariffs go? On the flip side, we haven't had the chance to really do analysis such as these to say, hey, well, if the car was $5,000 cheaper, but we could imagine or hypothesize here what would happen. Hey, if I had $5,000 extra, what would I do with that money? I'd probably do a lot with that money. I'd put it to good use. But if we're paying for tens of billions of dollars more every year, what are we getting in return? How many factories, let's just stay in the automotive industry, how many factories stay open because of those higher prices? We see them close all the time. How many new factories get built? How many manufacturing jobs are actually protected? Those are measurable questions. And yes, we have answers to them. But do we actually have finite numbers as far as the cost savings and the increase, the impact to gross domestic product? Because if consumers are ultimately paying the bill, and we are in the form of tariffs, then we deserve to know the return on that investment, don't we? This isn't anti-tariff. It's what are we getting in return for those tariffs? If you say that for every new car that's sold in the United States, we protect one American job, bravo. I would say, yeah, I would want to do that. That's great. Because now I know what my money is going towards. But if you're saying that we're just collecting tariffs in some unknown bundle and then allocating the funds to who knows where, sounds like the US government to me. There's another point that often gets overlooked. Tariffs don't only affect people buying brand new cars. A plumber paying a work truck pays more. A plumber buying a work truck pays more. A contractor replacing a fleet of vans pays more. A delivery company expanding its business pays more. So those higher costs often get passed along to customers. So even people who never buy a new vehicle can still feel the effects because the cost of doing business rises with these tariffs. Now, none of this means tariffs are necessarily a bad idea. There is a serious national security argument for maintaining domestic manufacturing. Factories take years to build, supply chains take years to develop, skilled workers can't be replaced overnight. If America loses too much manufacturing capacity, rebuilding it during a crisis becomes much harder. And we actually saw that during COVID. That's a legitimate concern. We want manufacturing, we want to be self-sustainable here in the United States. I don't want that to go away. I'm just trying to understand the cost-benefit analysis between tariffs and no tariffs, specifically on cars. But then we have to be honest about the policy, don't we? We're not saying tariffs make cars cheaper. We're saying we're willing to pay more because we believe manufacturing has strategic value. Those are two completely different arguments. One of them I agree with. Again, I want to protect the United States so long as I can see that that money is being put to good use. So maybe the biggest question isn't whether tariffs should exist. Maybe the better question is whether tariffs are most efficient or are the most efficient way to protect American manufacturing. Could tax credits accomplish the same goal? Could direct investment in factories accomplish the same goal? Could incentives tied to hiring American workers produce a better outcome? Those are questions worth debating. I don't think we disagree on this. Without tariffs, cars would probably be cheaper. The disagreement begins when we ask whether those savings are worth the manufacturing capacity America could lose in exchange. Again, we need some level of manufacturing capacity here in the United States. We need some presence of manufacturing. But I'm just trying to equate what these tariffs are paying for. And if I don't see that these tariffs are doing a good in society as far as maintaining jobs, supporting a factory presence here, supporting manufacturing capacity and output, then maybe we should just do away with the tariffs. Maybe we need to just become more efficient within the United States. That's an analysis that needs to be done by our government. And I think they already have. That's why they say, yeah, we have to have those tariffs so that we can compete here in the United States. But then the other thing that you have to really question is, why are we being outpaced with technology? Doesn't that piss you off somewhat? I mean, you constantly hear that the technology tends to be better as far as these electric vehicles in China. Why aren't we being the leaders? Why aren't we the innovators? We usually are. The United States is extremely innovative. We're extremely creative here within our own borders. However, if they have the competitive advantage, we either need to catch up, or I think we should be lowering the barrier to entry. Again, it just depends on the cost benefit here. So, would cars be cheaper without tariffs? Certainly. What are we protecting? We are protecting our manufacturing capacity. We are protecting jobs. We are protecting cities. We are providing an overall quality of life as an output of having those tariffs. We just need to make sure that the money is being allocated appropriately. All right, next topic. And you might like this. We're gonna get sad. I should play I should play a little sad song right now. Little violin. Little violin. I actually do play the violin. I don't practice enough, but I have a violin right there. You want me to go get it? Nah, I'm too lazy. Anyway, are you a billionaire? Are you a billionaire? A billionaire? Maybe you are. You are a billionaire in seconds. Maybe. We're not talking about dollars. Clearly, you probably aren't. I'm not. But in time, you may be a billionaire. Now, 1 billion seconds sounds like an unbelievable amount. I didn't know that I actually had 1 billion seconds left in my life. It actually sounds like more time than any of us could ever use, but it isn't. 1 billion seconds is about 32 years. So if you think that you have more than 32 years left to live, you're probably still a billionaire. And if you don't, you're not. So, if we just use 80 years as the average time scale, the average lifespan, and you're 50 years old, then you're still a billionaire. And that's strange because, of course, almost nobody thinks about their life this way. However, it's just a good thought experiment. Maybe put things in perspective. In an 80-year life, there's only 4,174 weeks. In a 30-year life, there's 1,565 weeks. What about months? Wow. There's 365 days in a year. If you think you have 30 years left to live, and you may or may not, you don't know, right? We're just using the 80-year lifespan. 30 years translates to 360 months. Wow. Damn. So get out there and do whatever the hell you want to do. That's why I'm doing the Shoy Show, okay? Now, are you a billionaire? You may very well be. Anybody 50 or younger, let's say 60 or younger, is a billionaire in seconds. You are a billionaire. And guess what? I think almost any billionaire that's 80 years old right now would give up $1 billion to have the time that you do? Now we're getting somewhere, because we measure wealth by money, investments, and net worth. How much money you got? How much money? How much money? Give me the money. Give me the money. We celebrate millionaires and billionaires. Oh, you're a millionaire? Oh, yeah. Let me be your friend. Oh, you're a billionaire. Oh, yeah, I'm scared. Oh. But the one thing every single one of us is spending every day is time. And that's the most valuable resource. It's the most scarce, isn't it? Pinky up, because I'm a billionaire in seconds. Now, here's a question. If someone told you exactly how many seconds you had left, would you spend tomorrow any differently? I don't know. Probably not. You know what I would do? I'd take my ass to the supermarket, go look at the chip section. I only buy what's on sale because I'm cheap, all right? In Brazil, they call you a mukirana. That means you cheap. But I don't give a shit. I'm going to buy my chips, big bags only, of course, 2 for $5, 2 for $6. Maybe look at the cookie section. You know what I'm saying? Also, whatever's on sale, 2 for $5, 2 for $6. That's how I would spend my life. If you just told me, yo, you're a billionaire in seconds, I'll be like, what? I'm going to the cookie section, going to the chip section. Because that's how I think, because I'm stupid. But seriously, would you spend your life any differently? If I told you you had 10 days left, would you spend your life any differently? Yeah, probably. You'd probably quit your job. You would definitely quit your job. And you'd go do whatever you want to do. And then your time would end like us all. But if I told you, hey, you got, I don't know, 10 million seconds left. You can't even equate that. You got to do the math on that, right? Would you wake up at the same time? Would you still go to work? 10 million seconds left. I don't know. What's 10 million seconds? Let's see. 10 million seconds, 2 days. That's 115 days. 10 million seconds. Shit. That's a third of a year. Shit. You got 10 million seconds left. What you doing? You're probably quitting work. Yeah, that's a third of a year. Yeah, 4 months. Ay. Hey, listen, you don't know when your time is coming, but you are a billionaire. You have a lot of time on this earth, so you should be doing what you want to do. How valuable is your time to you? That doesn't mean, hey, don't do things you don't want to do and do things you want to do, and you should do this and you should do that. Then you're just going to go crazy. You should be happy. You should be thankful. I think every day should be a play day. I try to put my frame of mind, in that sort of mentality. Because if you think every day you're working, it's easy to be dreadful. So I try to think, hey, every day should be a fun day. Sunday, fun day. Yeah. Now, every second you spend is gone forever. And I know that's cliche. I know that's so obvious, but I want to say that again because I want you to hear that. Sometimes when you hear it, it may register differently. Every second you spend is gone forever. There are no refunds, no interest earned, no way to buy it back. That's why the billionaires would actually pay you for your time. And actually, there's many movies, right? Didn't Cruella de Vil in 101 Dalmatians, didn't she want to take the souls of the dogs so she could be younger? Something like that? Or was that like Little Mermaid or something? I can't remember. And yet, most of us spend more time planning our next vacation than planning the rest of our lives. So here's another question. What are the 5 things you still want to do before you're gone? I know my things. I want to travel as much as I can. I want to see the world. I want to do the Shoy Show. I want to quit my fucking jobs. I want to quit corporate. I'm tired of that shit. There's no value there. Yes, there's prestige in being a project manager as far as getting to work for these Fortune 500 companies, blah, 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 blah. But it doesn't mean shit. If you know what you want to do, try it. You can't fail. There's no such thing as failure if you try. At the very least, you get experience out of it. What are the 5 things you still want to do before you're gone? Before you are laid to rest? And if death does not put that in perspective, I don't know what will. You should be able to name them right now. You should at least have 5 things to write down. And you should write them down, by the way, so that you can read them to yourself every day, and you can remind yourself of what to focus on. Maybe you wanted to start a business at some point or another. I think we all have. Maybe you want to go see some country. Maybe you wanted to learn another language. You wanted to write a book. Almost every single one of us deserve to write a memoir at some point. Maybe you want to spend more time with your friends, your family, your parents. Whatever it is, if it's important enough to matter at the end of your life, it should matter today, shouldn't it? The average American spends over 2 hours a day on social media. Disgusting. Shame on us. That is more than 30 full days every year. Wow. Wow. Let's equate that, okay? Let's equate that, please. That is 8.21%. Let's say 9%. Let's round up. 9% of your life every year is spent on social media. What the fuck is that doing for you? Nothing. Killing your brain cells, making you more withdrawn, making you more paranoid. And, oh, by the way, making all these corporations super rich. Imagine getting 1 extra month of your life back every single year just by cutting out social media. Wow. And this isn't about social media. This is about telling you you're a billionaire. You're a fucking billionaire. You got more than 30 years left on this earth. You are a billionaire because time is more valuable than money. What would you do with an extra month every year? We all say we want to take vacation, blah, blah, blah. Go save your month. Go save your month by eliminating social media. Go add years to your life. Take up a hobby, kids, travel, whatever it is. Here's what I found fascinating. Most people know roughly how much money is in their checking account. Very few know how they're spending the only account that's guaranteed to run out. You're not doing anything with your fucking money. On top of that, it's digital. When you die, when your time exists, nothing else matters. That's why we talk about time. When your time ceases to exist, nothing else will matter. Money will not matter, nothing. Everything goes away, right? So you should know when you're expected to reach 0. You can live to 95, you can live to 100, maybe 120, who knows? This isn't about fear, it's about awareness. And we should all realize that our most valuable asset isn't our salary, it's not our homes. It's the seconds we have left. It's really every second, it's not even every minute. It's every second. So at the very least, I think the biggest takeaway here is do not dread your days. Because I think you can go crazy with saying, hey, I only have 30 years left. I only have 15 years left. You'll go crazy if you really started thinking that way. And if you just think about money, hey, do I have enough money? You'll go crazy all the same. So I think the bigger takeaway here is remind yourself, your time is extremely valuable. You only have so much of it left. Smile. Smile. I'm not saying I fucking always do this. I got to remind myself every day. I got to remind myself multiple times a day. But don't dread your days because you already have the most valuable thing that you could ask for. And that is life. That is being awake. And every second matters. Thank you for watching. See you next time.